Hey guys, I want to talk to you today about sliding leg curls, which is one of my favorite posterior chain exercise. How to do them properly, the common mistakes that people make when they do them, and the different variations that you can use with it. So it's a very, very simple exercise that you can essentially do anywhere. All you need is a little slider thing like this, or furniture mover that you can buy online. It's about $10, really easy to get. So, you know, the original variation, you just lay down on your back like Kenny's gonna do here. You put both feet on the same slider. You're gonna lift your hips up all the way. And then from here, you just slide your feet out all the way, keeping your hips off the ground the whole time. And then you slide back in. And now I'll have you do a couple more reps, guys. Just like that. So it's important to try and keep the hips off the ground. Try to do one more. Good, you can come down. So this is the main variation, or the easiest progression. You got to make sure that you master that before you move on to more difficult and more challenging position. One of the reasons why I like this exercise a lot is because it challenges your hamstring in both of its function of bending the knee flexion, and the hip extension of extending your hips, because you need to keep your hips extended the whole time, and you're also flexing your knee at the same time. So it's targeting both function of the hamstring, and you also get a good hip activation from your glutes and other hip extensors when you're maintaining that hip extension at the top and throughout the movement. So the main cues here to keep in mind when you do it, so go in that top position, is to make sure that you're squeezing your butt real tight to maintain that straight line here between your shoulders and your knees. Your hips are in line with that line here. Okay, so if you stay up in that position, you also want to pull your toes up this way to prevent cramping in your hamstrings. And then from here, you're going to slide your feet out. Try to keep squeezing your butt as high as you can the whole time, and pull back in. So that would be the main cues here. Also, we want to make sure that we're not overextending with the back. Arching your back like this. That would be a compensation pattern that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that would be for the main leg curl exercise. So let's go into the common compensation patterns that we see a lot with this exercise. So like I said, when you get in that top position, so go ahead, Kenny. Try and do with the overarching back, yeah. Just like that here, overarching with the back. You see the ribs are flaring out in the front here. Usually just telling people to engage their abs, taking a deep breath out. Usually that'll fix that problem, making sure they're squeezing the whole time. So that's one problem. Another problem that I see a lot is the knees will tend to come apart a lot when, especially when sliding back in, actually. So go ahead and do that. So you want to make sure that the distance between the knees remain the same as you're sliding in and out, which is a little bit difficult to see from this angle. But a lot of times when you're pulling in and you're having a hard time using your hamstrings properly, your knees are just going to pull apart from each other. So an easy fix for that, if the person really has a hard time with that, is to just use a yoga block or a small ball or something that you can use between your knees to maintain the knees aligned the whole time. And you'll see right away when you use that, it makes it a lot more challenging for a person to be able to do it properly. So another common compensation, and that would probably be the most common one, is the hips dropping when you slide your feet back in. So try and replicate that, Kenny. So the feet are going to slide out, and then on the way back in, the hips are going to stay low because you don't have the strength in your posterior chain, or you're not squeezing hard enough to keep the hips fully extended. So I'll do another one like that. So we're sliding out, sliding back in. He's having a hard time keeping his hips up, and then the hips are coming up at the top usually. They'll reset in that position. And then do a good one. So it's important to squeeze and then keep the hips up without obviously flaring with the ribs at the top here. So that would be for the main compensation patterns. Now onto the variations. Once you're able to do the two-leg variations properly, which is pretty challenging when you've never done anything in that nature. From there you can progress into, like I was saying earlier, if like the knee problem is an issue, you can just put a block between your knees to make it more challenging. And then after that, we would use a 2-arm reach. So you want to do the 2-arm reach variation. So reaching straight up at the ceiling, sliding out and sliding back in. Again, try to keep the hips fully extended. Just do one more. And then why that makes it harder is because, you can come down, there's a lot of times when we're doing the initial variation, the arms are in the ground and they're pushing to help you stay up, which is not necessarily a bad thing initially, but it will definitely make it a lot more challenging when you're reaching straight up at the ceiling and try to not engage the arms at all, actually. And then from here, we would move into single leg variation, so one leg at a time, or the negative one leg hamstring curl. So for this one, so go into position, you're gonna come up with your hips, you're gonna lift one leg up, you're gonna slide your foot out all the way. Now you're gonna put this foot back down on the slider here and then slide in with 2 legs. So in this one, you're sliding out with one leg and you alternate legs. So you're gonna slide out with the other one, put it back on the slider, slide in with 2. You can come down. So the 1-leg variations is a lot more difficult than the 2-leg variations, but if we're using the negative portion, which is when we go out and we only do 1 leg at a time, that makes it more challenging, but not so much that when we're also pulling back in with 1 leg, that makes it very, very difficult. So the pulling back in is the more challenging part of the movement. So if you're using both legs to slide in, but 1 leg to slide out, that's a transition in between the 2 variations that can make it a little bit easier to go from the 2-leg to the single leg variation. So now let's go with the 1-leg variation, which would be next in line. So we lift 1 leg up, again making sure that we have a full hip extension here. Knee is brought up to the chest, and then we're just sliding out and back in, keeping the hips up as much as you can. Do another one. There we go. And then that's the next progression. And the last one, after this one, would be doing single leg with both hands reaching up. So Kenny might have a hard time with this one because I've had him do a bunch already with no rest. So let's go slide the leg out and then slide the leg back in. So you see how he's having a little bit of a hard time keeping the hips up, which is what I was talking about earlier. But essentially, that's it right there. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, any comments, hit me up, and hope you enjoyed.